we want to bring back I don't know if you can call it a popular segment, but it's apparently a segment that has meant a lot to many, many of the listeners out there. And we haven't done it for the last several weeks because of first there was the onslaught of multi-company pay-per-views we had to cover, and truthfully, and Harley was sick, as you know, for a while. We talked about that on the program. She's feeling chipper now, but I didn't want to think about that. And then we haven't been able to get to the emails, but this is finally to acknowledge some folks that have been waiting, the return of Reggie's Corner.
Reggie's Corner. We're here to talk about your good boys and girls. Reggie's Corner. We're so sorry they're dead now.
Oh, again, still, it never gets any easier to hear that. But all right, I've got to say this, that again, and Brian, you've mentioned that several people have contacted you on the socialized media. And so when's Reggie's coming back? And where, we send something in or we just want to hear it. And it has meant a great deal to a lot of the listeners, especially those who have been recognized. So we're going to try to keep up with this. But when we started doing this, we didn't realize, but we should have. I was never a math major, but you're pretty good with them numbers, that with the audience that we have, chances are there would be multiple tragedies every week. And to recognize we don't want to leave out any of the good boys and girls and everybody's members of their family, but to recognize everybody on a regular basis would almost be its own show. I think you can vouch for this with the amount of emails you've seen, and then I get some sent to me that I almost never see.
Yeah, I think we figured out for every listener there's 1.5 animals in their house.
And apparently many of them are crossing the bridge. So we're going to recognize here on the program today a sampling of some of the emails that we've gotten in the last few weeks, and we'll try to keep up with the more heart-rendering or unusual stories that we hear about our furry family members, but we can't do everybody. But it doesn't mean that we don't love them all. So as a matter of fact, Harley's bugging me to do something for animal charity coming up, since we've doing the breast cancer thing with the figures, and we've done the the Crusade for Children. So Harley's going to pick an animal group coming up soon.
You sure she's not just bugging you for a treat?
No, she talks to me when nobody's around.
Really?
Yeah.
Son of Harley.
We'll talk about that later on. But anyway, my friends Aiden and Brandon at Galaxy Records up in Michigan had a tragedy, and they wrote a long email. And it starts today. The Galaxy Records family, and primarily Aiden, have come to terms with the euthanasia of our unofficial mascot cat, Ozzy McOzerton. And then the rest of the email, they, I'm sure, crafted with care and spent a lot of time on, that contains, in the context of the email, puns on every single Ozzy Osbourne song that has ever been written or released. And I can't go into it here, or we'd have to sign off before we did anything else. But good work, boys, but we're sorry about Ozzy McOzerton. And that was Brandon and Aiden, as I said, at Galaxy Records in Michigan. I may send you this, Brian, so you can read it off the air. It was quite clever.
Are you
Mark,
are you banging on something over there?
What? I'm grabbing the stack of notes here. What's the matter with you?
I heard like a.
Well, it could have been. It's on the desk here. What are you, wrapped in bubble wrap?
It sounded like a drum beat. It sounded like you were getting ready to make a sacrifice or something. I didn't know what it was.
There's no goddamn. Went to see the witch doctor. This is what he said. He said, ooh, ah.
Ooh, ee.
All right.
Ooh, ee.
Ooh, ee. Ooh, ah, ah. Bing, bang. Walla, walla, bing, bang. Mark writes from where? I don't know where. But he writes that this past September, one of our dogs, Keto, had to be put down as he's been suffering from several ailments. He was 14 years old And his original owner was my deceased brother-in-law, Carlos Montanez. Keto would have been 15 if he made it to his birthday on Christmas Day 2023. He was a purebred Shiba Inu. I have no idea what that is. Carlos named him Keto, K-I-T-O, by the way, as that was Carlos's nickname.
Wouldn't that be Kaido?
I thought Keto, well...
Keto's K-E-T-O.
Kaido. Well, how do you get Kaido out of Carlos Montanez?
I got Kaido out of you saying it's keto and then you spelling it.
No, it was Kaido or Keto, whichever way, was Carlos Montanez's nickname.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not disputing this.
Well, goddamn, present you with facts here.
Is Carlos Martinez famous? I mean, he's not saying my brother-in-law.
Montanez, not Martinez.
Well, he's saying
he's famous because he's fucking Mark's brother-in-law.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's saying my brother. He didn't just say my brother-in-law Carlos like any normal person would. He gave him his full name. Should we know who he is? He
wanted to make sure we knew who he was talking about.
Is he in a band?
Maybe he's got a lot of brother-in-laws. This would probably be the only one that's deceased. Here's the thing. If his brother-in-law is deceased and now the dog has passed away, was it genetic in that family?
I don't think it works like that. Well,
we're sorry, Mark, to hear about Kaido. There's got to be an example of a. What about a pita? Pita, see? Pita, piece of pita bread. P-I-T-A.
Right, but what if it was P-I-T-O? What would you say?
Pito.
But that isn't a word, so it doesn't matter what you would say.
What if I say puta?
But don't, whoa. Let's be careful what you say here on the air.
Here's another Kevin from Wyoming. Good morrow, Jim and Brian. Is that the way they address people up there in Wyoming? Good morrow?
I don't know. I know someone with an LLC in Wyoming.
Well, that's a place where a lot of shady people go to hide their... Anyway, on September 24th, 2023, I lost my close friend Scoots. He was a German Shepherd mix and a notorious spot stealer whenever you got out of your recliner or couch. He made it through 13 years of life, and even though I knew his crossing was coming, I am quite woebegone. Kevin from Wyoming, we're sorry about Scoots, but you got away with words, Kevin.
Woebegone.
Woebegone. That's where all your woe is gone. And you have
Woebegone, Wyoming.
From Woebegone, Wyoming. Here's another we've got. This is the first example of this particular species on the program. Victor. Oh, that... Okay, if this is indeed his real name, Victor Rivera, former WWF Tag Team Champion, partner of Chief Jay Strongbow, Victor Rivera. He was an America's champion, too.
That's right, but that is a real-sounding name. It's not like Dolph Ziggler or something ridiculous.
Well, it just... do you know any other Victor Riveras?
I know Victors, and I know people with the last name Rivera.
Okay. Put them together. Well, how many do you know?
If someone from each family married and they had to name the next kid, maybe it would be Victor Rivera.
That's like my fucking cousin that lives down the block, Frank Sinatra. There's Franks and there's Sinatras, but you don't hear many Frank Sinatras.
Or Junior.
Except for that one. Hey, Jim and Brian, hope all is well. We just lost one of our horses yesterday. Her name was DD730. Sounds like that DraftKings spot. She retired from the racetrack at the end of November 2022. We asked the owners if we could keep her so she could become a brood mare, which is a mother horse. Throughout these months, she's been such a joy to have at our barn. My daughters, 5 and 2 years old, absolutely loved her. She got really sick on us a week and a half ago and went to the equine hospital there in Ocala, Florida. I wonder if they check your ID when you get in and out of that place.
Yeah, to make sure you're not Marty Funk.
Hey! They needed... I'm aware of that, yes. There's no reason to malign the good name of Ocala when you...
Hey, brooding mare, wasn't that Edge's first gimmick?
That was actually... He was the brooding mare of the WWF at that time. But anyway, back to Dee Dee. They needed to do exploratory surgery, and her intestines had issues, and they couldn't do anything to save her. So we're sorry to hear about Dee Dee and Victor, if that is indeed your real name, Rivera. And Frank Sinatra, if he has any horses also. And Jenny from Mayville, North Dakota, proving that we do have female listeners. Unfortunately, her little mini dachshund, Penny, had to be put to sleep in August. She had been having trouble breathing and had liver and intestinal problems. She was 13. And I had a miniature dachshund when I was a kid. Well, my mom and I did. And they're just the cutest little things, but they also have a tendency to develop back problems because of the way they're built and the suspension, especially if they get overweight. Little Hansi was a pudgy little dog.
Hey, when you got Harley Quinn, was it because you wanted a dog, or was it in part because you had memories of having a dog as a kid and it was, just a happy part of your life?
Well, no. Well, Stacy actually instigated Harley and wanted a Pomeranian, and I was concerned at the time. I'd been talking about when I was out of town so much, I was still traveling. She went with me sometimes, but then at the point in time where Ring of Honor gave me a mental meltdown and I dropped out of society for about a year or so, that's when she convinced me, okay, we got to start looking. And then I saw the Pomeranians and, oh, they're cute. And then as soon as I met little Harley, I've always loved dogs, but I haven't had time to take care of them or, spend with them or whatever.
Other than the Steiners, how many wrestlers, at least until the complete end of the territory days / WCW, whatever it was, had dogs that, if they weren't married or something and they had dogs, like, were there any guys that took dogs on the road?
No. And Scotty only brought Arnold when they were close to, home in Atlanta, and he and Rick were in the car. So why not, just throw Arnold in there too? It's not like they were flying him around, but generally, no, you had dogs if you were married or had a girlfriend, somebody in the house to take care of the poor dog. But no, guys that just lived by themselves usually didn't have a dog because you'd never see the fucking thing and he'd never get out.
No locker room dogs?
No, every once in a while, somebody, if they were visiting, but not a lot of light. Not in the. Are you kidding? Watts would have goddamn fined you probably if you'd have brought. He certainly fined people for trying to bring too many family members and smooch them in for free.
He would have fined you and kicked the dog.
Yeah. But no, there was although Hercules Hernandez, I may have mentioned this, but when he came to the Louisiana territory and his girlfriend, I can't remember what her name was, and they didn't last very long, but they had, I think, a dog and 2 cats in the car with them, and she was making trips with him, and they were just in the car, and it was a very crowded car. The trunk was full of his shit, and the animals in the back seat, and them in the front seat, and
well, you really have to be committed to a relationship to drive around with your boyfriend or husband in Mid-South of all the territories. That's nonstop. Yeah, well, I did. On the road.
Possibly why it didn't last too long. And I don't believe their parting was amicable. But back to Reggie's corner. Matt in England says, I would like to put forward my guinea pig, Sam, for induction into Reggie's corner. Sam lived until the ripe old age of 8, which is old for a guinea pig, and outlived his mother Ziva and sisters Hetty and Kono. Sounds like part of the cast of the original Hawaii Five-0.
Sounds like a lonely existence.
But no, well, there's all of them around there. He had all the guinea pigs. He said Sam would always brighten up our day when he got home, squeal like an alarm when he wanted food, and when I was trying to listen to your podcast. So apparently we're not big with the guinea pig audience. That's a key demo we're missing.
All right. I can live with that.
You're not going to try to do anything to get the guinea pigs?
No. Just tiny shit everywhere? No.
What? Just... All right. Nevertheless, we don't want to disinclude anybody, any segment.
Yes, we do. You said no spiders, no snakes, no reptiles, no lizards.
Well, but a guinea pig has fur. It's a cute little furry thing. Jonah from Saskatchewan. On Thursday, August 31st, we had to say goodbye to my lifelong friend, Ernie the cat, after he lost his battle with cancer. Ernie was 16 years old, and he was my first ever pet. He was with me since I was 8 years old.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh, I had all kinds of dogs when I was a kid at various points, and they coexisted for some periods of time, but the early ones are never easy to lose. And speaking of which, Chris from wherever the fuck he may be from, lost his 15-year-old best friend, Max. His full name was Maxwell Shithead Taggart. Oh, I'm sorry. He says his middle name was pronounced Shytheed, as he was and always will be my little shithead. Maxwell Shytheed, a.k.a. Shithead Taggart.
That'll be MJF's name in WWE.
And also
MST. What? Go ahead.
MS. Well, it could be MSG. What is the MSG that they now have, for the past several years, have been assuring us is not in their goddamn food?
I'm not exactly sure, but there was something I recently saw on the news. Well, I said recently, within the last year, about how everyone got it wrong. MSG isn't the problem.
Well, is MSG gonna file some kind of slander suit then?
Well, if it was owned by James Dolan, it would. But the overall chemical, or the it's not a chemical, the sauce, the
substance,
the component of MSG does not have a advocating body.
What do you think Madison Square Garden thinks about the negative MSG publicity over the last several years?
I think they love it because it makes people not pay attention to all the negative publicity around Madison Square Garden.
Well, you got a point there. And Matt has a point that his best friend Piper just passed away at 17 years old. He was a little pug Chihuahua mix. That's old for a dog. And he only had a short illness for about 2 days, but he passed away during the night. And he says, I miss him every day. It's hard not hearing his nails on our hardwood floors when I come home. And that's so sad. And that's, yes.
Why'd you start with the goofy ones and end with the sad ones?
Well, I'm not done yet. I got one more, but I just wanted to bring that one up because, again, when Harley was sick and she was just laying around in the corner instead of walking back and forth, it was very quiet. I understand the thing. But anyway, we have one more from Aaron from Belfast, Northern Ireland, who apparently, I'm not sure quite grasps the concept of Reggie's Corner, but he says, my little mischievous tomcat Smokey, who I should point out is literally Tom from Tom and Jerry, if he was a real cat, same markings, coloring, the whole lot, received a nasty bite from something. This left him with an incredibly painful abscess in his foot that was full of green pus and blood. And once the vet popped it by accident as it was hidden under his foot fur, spewed this volcano of goop that absolutely stunk. Once clean, he had a literal hole in his foot. After a week inside the house and feeling very sorry for himself, and a twice daily matchup filled with choke slams, power bombs, and table spots to get his antibiotics and painkillers into him, I'm happy to say he's on the mend and back to his usual irritating little self. A happy induction into Reggie's Corner.
He's alive. The dog's alive?
Yes.
He's not in Reggie's Corner.
His cat,
whatever it was. No one was listening. The cat isn't in Reggie's Corner if he's alive.
That's what I'm saying to you. He didn't grasp the cons. He just wrote to explain that his cat had a fucking abscess in his foot that spewed a volcano of foul-smelling goop and pus. But he's okay now. So, Aaron, that means that Smokey is not in Reggie's Corner.
Oh, wow. You can hear the anger in those hands.
But now come back if something happens. But it has to be something bad.
You don't think he should be banned from any further Reggie's Corner submissions?
Well, because then sometime it's going to be true. Well, I don't know. Maybe fucking Smokey will outlive Aaron, and then Smokey can write in and tell us about Aaron. I don't know that Smokey will care that much about Aaron as Aaron does about Smokey.
All right.
You know what's coming up, don't you, Brian?
Was that the end of Reggie's Corner?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and that, folks, I'm sorry for the time that it's taken till we got back to it, but that was the end of Reggie's Corner.
Reggie's Corner. We're here to talk about your good boys and girls. Reggie's Corner. We're so sorry they're dead now.
Woof, woof.